going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring up Jonathan to join me to welcome you here today. And so you can hang out up here. I'm going to hand you my mic when it's time, but yeah, welcome. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Adapting and Innovating in America's Reindustrialization, an event hosted by NextStreet, by our Industrial Supply Chain Forum. My name is Spencer Lau, and I am a director at NextStreet. That is not true. I am Andy Crawford. I'm a partner at NextStreet. Spencer Lau, my colleague, who is 100% prepped to deliver a fantastic event today, is stuck in New York and could not make it out due to the floods. So I will do my best to quickly school up. I was out in Greektown last night having a fantastic dinner and got the call. And I was like, whoop, let's not order that another glass of wine. Let's go home and figure out what I'm going to do here. So thanks so much for your understanding as we get through today. We're going to have a fantastic set of panels for you, a lot of great information as we try to make sense of the world we're operating in right now, because it's a bit crazy. And so, like I said, I'm a partner at NextStreet. I'll tell you a little bit more about our firm in a second, but really, truly, thank you for taking the time to be here. We are partnering this event with Reindustrialize, which is a two-day event that kicks off tomorrow here in Detroit for the second year. And so because there's some opportunity, I think, for some crossover for folks, we wanted to ride along and bring an Industrial Supplier Forum event in partnership to that. We're looking forward to some dynamic and insightful conversations, counting on you panelists for that. Bring the insight, bring the dynamism. We know you will. And talk about the economic opportunities and what's going on in this industrial transformation in America. Special thank you to our host here today at Urban Tech Exchange. Thank you. You guys have been wonderful, and your space is lovely. So thanks so much for having us. Lots of people jumped off the elevator and said, wow. So there was a wow factor as folks were coming off here. So it's great to be here. For some of you, you might not know what NextStreet does. Let me tell you a little bit about us. We're a small business supplier or small business solutions company. We work across the country with the mission of promoting economic growth and opportunities. We've been at it for more than 20 years. Our clients are corporations, governments, and philanthropies who are interested in building small businesses and supplier firms in their communities or in their supply chains. This Industrial Supplier Forum is an initiative to bring together these industry leaders, such as yourselves, and explore ideas and approaches amid America's reindustrialization. Fundamentally, how do we make sense of the moment? That's what the Industrial Supplier Forum is designed to do. We want to promote dialogue and innovations about industrial policy and programs that are happening around the country. And this is all aimed at expanding economic opportunities for small businesses and their workers as America undergoes this transition. I was having a conversation with a community about, like, how are you going to capitalize and capture, and how are you going to do, and like we did a very consultancy deck, for 2 hours of conversation. At the end of it, this woman who was at this local economic development organization said, oh, I get it. Somebody's going to get rich. Who's it going to be? And I was like, that's the line right there, right? Somebody is going to get rich. There are a lot of opportunities in the reindustrialization. Who is it going to be? And is it going to be the incumbents? Or is there perhaps a way that we can expand the opportunity as the pie is expanding in this reindustrialization process? As this is going on, we've got this intersection of new technologies, talent, and trade uncertainty. Can we call it trade uncertainty? It's creating immense pressure on our manufacturers and is blurring the lines of what we can and what we will produce in this country. It's disrupted existing manufacturing sectors like the automotive one here, while also fostering advancement in newer sectors, including mobility, clean energy, semiconductors. Small and mid-sized manufacturers are at the forefront of this change and are feeling it every day. And in this volatile environment, many existing firms are facing challenges to adapt, to retool, to retain, to stay competitive. And at the same time, we're seeing new opportunities emerge, right? Change And whether it's crisis or change of any kind, disruption creates opportunities. We want to identify those and lean into them. It's great to be here in Michigan. I'm a Michigander. I live up the road in Lansing. So it's great to have this event here in Michigan. As you know, and many of you here are very familiar with what's going on in the state, manufacturing is part of the state's identity, its a history, and its livelihood across communities. And today the state is experiencing a real resurgence driven by historic investments in advanced manufacturing, clean energy, mobility, all these things. And as this resurgence is underway, investors, policymakers, industry leaders are really grappling with big questions and trying to really figure out what is going on and how we can make Michigan a winner in this time. It's events like this and the panels you hear today that are really important as we all try to figure this out together. Like I said, the Reindustrialize conference is here. It's helping focus some national attention on this critical work. And then beyond its legacy, Michigan is also an important case study and testing ground for new industrial policies and strategies. As we know, as Michigan goes, so goes America. And so what's happening here is really important. So one of the best examples of this kind of solution is the My Hub for Manufacturers. And I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Smith, our partner at the state of Michigan, to just give you a little bit of information about that now, and then we'll dive into it deeper in a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and thanks to Next Street for hosting this event. It's great to see so many friends in the room, including some folks I haven't seen in a while, so welcome, everybody. So back in 2023, I was given the privilege of helping to create and launch a new office here in Michigan called the Community Worker Economic Transition Office. So somewhat modeled after offices in other states, often called just transition offices. And that's a model where essentially, the government comes in after something really bad has happened in a community and tries to figure out how to make that community whole. And, that seemed like pretty dumb, right? Like, why should we wait for bad things to happen? And how could we think about developing a strategy that allowed us to connect some of the manufacturers, the communities, the workers who are most at risk from the economic change that we've seen happen over the last 30 or 40 years. They continue to be at risk in the future as industry and trends change. How could we take these folks who are vulnerable to risk and create a pathway for them into some of the opportunities that we know are coming, right? We're seeing these massive investments in things here in Michigan, like batteries, electric vehicles, and hard tech, and drones, and just all kinds of really exciting defense and aerospace technologies. We know these opportunities are coming. We see the investment happening. All of these big investments are going to require supply chain, and who better to provide the supply chain for these new investments but the legacy manufacturers who've been here for generations, right? Often family businesses, deeply rooted in their community. And so, that kicked off a whole host of meetings where I was running around places like Washington, D.C., trying to talk to anybody who would figure out how to give me some money and give me some help and try to launch this. Got connected to Next Street, and they came in and have been just enormously helpful partners because there were some things that it turns out, you guys may be surprised by this, there's certain things government's not good at. And it turns out like technology procurement is one of those things, right? Like building websites, still not good at it all these years after ACA, right? So, being able to bring a partner like Next Street in, leveraging philanthropic support, industry partnerships, to be able to create tools like My Hub for Manufacturers, we could never have done this on our own. And so, the lesson here for me is, we have tons of opportunity to help support small businesses, local communities. What they need is they need access to information, to data. They need to understand where markets are headed so that they can create a plan for themselves that matches their values, that speaks to what their strengths and what they're good at. And tools like My Hub for Manufacturers are the way that we can do that. So thanks for being here. I'm excited about this video. It's pretty great. And we'll go ahead and hit play. Michigan is in the midst of a historic wave of industrial reinvestment. It's driven by advancements in mobility, in clean energy, and advanced manufacturing. But as you all know, this is also a time of uncertainty.
Michigan has always been that heartbeat of American manufacturing, but today that heart is beating a little faster.
Now more than ever, we're even more reliant on having a strong, resilient, agile, and innovative supply base.
Launching the new My Hub for Manufacturers will help us continue to support these manufacturers through deeper collaboration, shared vision, and a commitment to ensuring that every manufacturer who is making it in Michigan has the tools and resources to support, to grow, and adapt.
Being an automotive guy for the last 42 years, I will tell you, it's much needed for our state.
This is about more than just resilience. It's about positioning Michigan as the best place in the country to build the future of advanced manufacturing.
This is about creating pathways for more people to see success and opportunity being possible when they want to make something that means something.
The Hub will access us to grants, financing, business matching, networking, training, and many other resources that we as manufacturers can use.
That is how we build, that is how we grow, and that is how we will thrive.
So as you'll hear probably more about, the Hub is an online tool that's going to allow small, medium-sized manufacturers to access all of the great programming that already exists. Like we know we have partners like the manufacturing extension partnerships, the small business development centers, lots of different amazing institutions and organizations that provide services to these small businesses, but it often can be really hard to find where the great programming is. And so creating a single place where folks can navigate to those resources is just a really great way to ensure that we're fully leveraging the amazing programming and the amazing institutions that already exist here around the state. So lots more to come, lots more opportunity to evolve and grow that tool with partners like Next Street. But thanks again for being here. Turn it back to Andy for our first panel.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. So I'd like to invite our first panel to come on up. You know who you are, and then as you get situated, I'll do some intros as well. As they're coming up, there's lots of seats over here. If folks are interested in grabbing a seat down here, you're welcome to. I see some folks standing. You're certainly welcome to continue to do so. And folks in the VIP lounge back there, the champagne room, or whatever this is. So this is terrific. So, all right, fantastic. You guys are quick getting up there. All right. You are, yeah, you know how to get it going. You know how to get it going. All right, so just tremendous thanks in advance to all of our panelists for taking the time to both prep and commit to being here today. As you're trying to run businesses and organizations, that time is hard to come by. So welcome Lisa Lunsford. Lisa is the CEO of Global Strategic Supply Solutions, GS3 Global, a solutions-based metal forming company where the intersection of manufacturing expertise and mobility creates solutions that power mobility and the next generation of energy infrastructure. Ooh. I know. Right? She has over 30 years of experience in the mobility space, and before founding two successful companies, Lunsford began her career in mobility as an R&D engineer over at Ford Motor Company's plastics division. In addition to her role at GS3, she has served on the Detroit Regional Chamber's Board of Directors since 2018, and in 2024 was named to the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago's Board of Directors. Megan McDonald has been in the automotive manufacturing space for nearly 15 years. She's currently the Vice President of Member Content for MEMA, Original Equipment Suppliers, and in her role, she oversees and delivers impactful programming that advances the interests of vehicle suppliers. And before joining MEMA, Megan held key positions at Bosch, including Director of Marketing, Business Strategy, and Communications for the Power Solutions Division and the Chief of Staff in the Office of the President. And I think had something to do with setting up this space, yes?
I was on the team that helped set up Urban Tech Exchange 3 or 4 years ago.
Excellent. Well, welcome home. And Pavan Muzumdar is the Chief Operating Officer of Automation Alley, Michigan's Industry 4.0 Knowledge Center, blending his 20 years of experience in executive leadership roles with his love of financial analysis and entrepreneurial, it says love, You wrote it. With his love of financial analysis and entrepreneurial endeavors, he brings a people-focused, fundamentals-based analytical approach to his work. He's an Industry 4.0 expert who is often invited to speak at conferences and is a regular participant in panel discussions. When we were setting up this panel, they said we had to have you, so here you are. You've been instrumental to the success of Automation Alley's Industry 4.0 program services, including taking a leading role in the creation and management of Project Diamond, Automation Alley's 3D printing network. In addition to this role, also the founder of PCS Insight LLC, a company that teaches leaders of growing companies how to increase profits by intensifying happiness and reducing friction in the workplace. I bet folks will want to talk to you at the happy hour for sure about that. So welcome everyone, and how about a little round of applause. All right, so we're going to jump into it. We're going to jump into it with an edit. Lisa's suggestion on an edit. So she didn't like the word legacy manufacturing base, right? We don't like that. Legacy sounds a little old, a little stuck, a little backward, perhaps. So we're going to just call it, I don't know, what are we calling it? Existing. The difference we're drawing here between panel 1 and 2 is existing businesses and startup businesses. Right, so as you start to answer a question, I'll let you decide how you want to rename it, because I like that. But what we're focused on right here is, what are the small and medium-sized manufacturers? How are they adapting in the seismic forces that are really reshaping the manufacturing industry across America? We've got supply chain disruptions. We've got reshoring. We've got an evolving workforce. Companies are navigating a rapidly changing environment that demand new strategies and new investments. Here in Michigan, we've seen how fast and furious these disruptive forces can be. Trade shifts, technical shifts, isn't that funny? There's so many euphemisms. Trade shifts, technological change, evolving industry demands, forcing manufacturers to really rethink everything, whether it's corporate strategy and operations, supply chains, and workforce and talent development. So we'll hear from these leaders about how are you navigating? What are you doing to stay competitive, to modernize operations, and to position into the future and write the future? And so with that, Lisa, I'm going to start with you. Let's ground ourselves a little bit in how all of these macro trends that are impacting folks across the country, how are those showing up for you in your business as a business owner? What are the most significant economic, technical, supply chain shifts? And how are manufacturers such as yourself grappling today? You can take that any direction you want. That's an awful big question. So as a business owner, what's it look like for you?
It looks like it does for everybody else, right? Every day we're hearing the same things. We're 7 months into the American First trade policy, and we're still trying to figure out our Marshall Plan, right? We have done everything that we could to our contracts. We have spoken with our customers. We have created transparencies and with our supply base as well. So we've done everything that we think that we can do, and we still don't have it right, because every day I wake up, I'm invited to a new circus. So it's today there's a tariff, tomorrow there's not a tariff, and I'm really impacted. And as most you guys are, you know your supply base with the USMCA. One day we knew what was USMCA compliant. Next day we don't know what USMCA compliant is. So I'm just going to stick with the American trade policy first, and I'm going to say that we all know what that looks like. We know what that is. However, we still see a healthy labor workforce. You know, when we see the numbers, we're like, well, wait a minute, there was a big layoff. Why is that not appearing, right? We still see people buying cars. But then when you peel back that onion, you then realize 7,000 people have left the manufacturing roles in June alone in the state of Michigan. And it gets worse. A lot of that is that legacy talent. And I'm going to go with this word legacy for a second. We all heard of Levi's, right? All right. Levi's was a jump off point for everything that you got on that's denim. So legacy sets the foundation for everything. So we can call it old, we can say it's old technology, but it took that innovation of denim to now get you to the next innovation of denim in the automotive. So what we have decided to do in our situation with dealing with the tariffs and whatnot is basically make the tariffs the way, because we recognize that it's not going to go away. So how can we use it and leverage it? So now what we're trying to do is make deals with people to onshore, to reshore. At my office, we still have a lot of tool and die. We have the old school because we know that that's important. We have the CNCs, but our CNCs are the automated. We have it where it's lights out running, so it's there. We have gotten to situations where we're looking at FTZ zones, we're looking at bonded warehousing. We have taken on more from our customer base, but that comes with a price, because that means most of my capital is wrapped up in transportation costs. And it's not just transportation costs, we're talking about the tariffs are also in that. And we don't get paid for the tariffs right away. A lot of times I have to wait about 6 months for my tariff money to come back, and that's money that I cannot pass along to the customer in some situations. I have to share with that. So to me, or for our business, we started, as far as the technology piece of it, we started the technology years ago. What you guys are calling AI and all this Industry 4.0, it happened years ago. So we're not slow to get there. So we had to do that in order to move from a small shop to now where we produce over 1 million units annually. So we couldn't do that by hand. So once again, we took a jump off point and we scaled, so.
Fantastic. And can you give any more detail on when that kind of transformation took place? So you just did a big retool, and now you're looking at, I'm just curious about the distance between like kind of pivot to pivot for you.
Well, in 2012, when we started, in 2010, when we started the business, we were actually doing a lot of what they call ocean transportation paperwork for a logistics company. Well, actually for Stellantis's wheels. And then from there, we were able to get into manufacturing. Because backstory, I used to own an IT company. That was my first company that I actually started. Then I got into metals manufacturing, which is a whole different witchcraft. And then in between that, we were able to do the logistics because we had the systems in place to handle that. So we started with our first program. The first program was just 10,000 units a year. Okay, so I could do that with the technology that we had in place. But then as we started gaining more programs, we started with 4 part numbers. Now I think we're up to about 30 different part numbers, and they're running constantly. We actually had to start doing the investment then. So with bubble gum and spit, we went out there and just started, making it happen, getting capital where we could get capital. And just putting in the work and the grind. So that for us, I think I was working with Tom at Automation Alley at the time, and Tom was trying to help me out with getting some of that capital in place. But in a lot of instances, I couldn't because I'm in Wayne County. He's in Oakland. But again, with the magic of Tom, we were able to tap some resources.
Great, thanks, and thanks for going one click deeper there on just underscoring, again, the dynamism that's already in place in existing manufacturers, right? This isn't like you've been running the same play for decades when we talk about an existing manufacturer. So, Megan, how does this show up for you as you support your members?
Well, I think it's been touched on. Uncertainty is the key word, and it's difficult to build a strategy on uncertainty. And some of the things that we've seen that Lisa hasn't already alluded to, not all suppliers know where their raw materials are coming from raw material to finished goods. So in fact, at the end of last year, BCG produced a study that said fewer than 30% of vehicle suppliers could tell you from raw material to finished product. So supply chain mapping is something big that we've seen from a strategic perspective be implemented, because we estimate that about 60% of motor vehicle components in North America are USMCA compliant. That leaves 40%. That doesn't mean 40% aren't. It leaves 40% gray. So people used to be paying maybe 2.5% on a 10-cent widget, that now this is very impactful. So understanding the supply chain is a really big piece. And we've seen a lot of small and medium-sized suppliers integrate different types of technology. So you may not have enough people to have a task force or a huge team, but there are companies such as Altana AI, which is basically the Google Maps for supply chain. If you haven't heard of this, I encourage you go look at it. But they're able to create transparency into the supply chain, and not only from a tariff perspective, but also for things like forced labor. So we've seen an increase in really trying to understand the supply chain. With that also comes understanding that a lot of things were single sourced. So we've seen a big shift in strategy from having a single source of a component to, where possible, having a dual source. And those are two of the key tenets that we've seen throughout the supply base really be implemented over the last 6 months. Some saw this coming and started earlier. However, I think we made the comment earlier, you said that large companies are like the Titanic with a small rudder. So they may have been thinking about this for a long time, but hadn't necessarily started doing. And unfortunately, we see that regardless of company size. So there's a lot of tools, and we're really working to help our members have access to these tools, especially the smaller players that may not have the resources to get them on their own.
Great. And Pavan, your organization was described as magic. And so what magic do you have for this moment?
It was Tom, not the organization, but he has brought his magic to our mission alley, I must say.
He was on the clock while he was doing that magic.
Right,
so.
exactly. So I'll kind of pick up where Lisa left off, because what she has demonstrated is what an organization needs to do today and sort of where it's going. And she really embodies what it is imperative for a company to do, which is to really stay on that path for digital transformation. And I think she has a superpower that she ran an IT company that she was able to do it. Most manufacturers don't really have that skill. So she's not afraid of technology. But what's happening in manufacturing is becoming a technology play. And that is sort of, if you take that to its end state, today manufacturing is very process-based. And this is what Michigan has excelled in for the last 100 years. That's what the third industrial revolution was. That's what Industry 3.0 is. It's automated process. Where Industry 4.0 is going is that process is being encapsulated in the underlying technology. As Lisa mentioned, the CNC machine has all the code, all that processes in the CNC machine. You don't need that special additional help. It's all in the firmware, it's all in the code. AI is accelerating that even one step further. So process typically is where, the traditional technologies, manufacturing technologies, subtractive and formative, are essentially playing. But as process becomes encapsulated within the technology, it's incumbent on companies to start thinking of themselves as IP owners. And that is the big transition. So from process ownership to design ownership, and then the CapEx becomes flexible capital. And now a manufacturing company starts looking like a software company. But that requires a leadership mindset that we really need to accelerate. That's really what Project Diamond is about. The reason we are so bullish on additive manufacturing is because additive manufacturing is that one technology where if you understand it, all the other Industry 4.0 technologies become less intimidating, right? And this was even pre-AI. AI is even going to accelerate that further. So we have in the software business, there's this new trend, it's called vibe coding, which is basically you tell the AI to write the code. That doesn't mean you obviate the need for software engineers. It's that the software engineers are directing AI. That's going to happen in manufacturing, where the engineers are going to ask AI to do the designs. These designs aren't going to be formative or subtractive. They're going to be all additive, because that's what naturally comes to AI. So for a company like Lisa's, this becomes a very natural path because they're not afraid of technology. But for all the other manufacturers out there, they really need to pay attention and really start thinking about how am I going to think of myself as a digital company. That to us is that big, long challenge. And the thing is, you've probably seen it, technology is accelerating at faster and faster rates, right? So it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And that's what keeps us up at night in terms of manufacturing.
Yeah. All companies are tech companies. And, and we just make different stuff, right, with the tech. So, so I'm going to come over to you, Megan, to start off our next question. But, we've talked about tariffs, geopolitical disruption, shifting demand, competition. Even without tariffs, there's so many disruptions happening simultaneously. Manufacturers are really responding to these disruptions and challenges. Jonathan talked about maybe like forward-looking and not just defense. Like maybe we could play offense as well. At the same time, people are repositioning themselves. They're looking to modernize and capitalize on new market opportunities. In supply chain challenges, how can we look at them as springboards for growth? Like we're going to try to pivot to some optimism, right? Like springboards for growth and diversification. So as you sit supporting your members, how are manufacturers adapting to these shifts, particularly those small and mid-sized manufacturers? You talked about them not having some of the in-house support that they need, but how are they balancing cost and reliability and trying to really build supply chain resilience?
Well, I think that the unique thing with any problem is it's really an opportunity, right? And I think that we're at the point where every, 3 months ago, we were hosting workshops on a weekly basis, and it was like, we can't do anything. We don't know what's happening yet. We can't do anything. We've come past that point. I don't know if we're on a bell curve. I don't think so, but we've come past that point on the roller coaster, at least, where people are ready to start doing. And together with our members, we have put forth to the administration a handful of proposals that we see as opportunity to be able to reindustrialize. So one of those is focused around how can we generate stimulus for vehicle suppliers. And one thing to note, because I know some of you may not be automotive, but vehicle suppliers make up more than 5.5 million jobs in the United States. We've added 60,000 jobs since 2015. So we are growing and we are here. Even despite the fact that manufacturing jobs in net are declining, we represent the largest manufacturing sector. So together with sister organizations, with automotive manufacturers, we've put forth a proposal for stimulus that really focuses on a handful of things. One, how do you provide quick access to working capital? Because let's not forget, if we would have been here 2 years ago, we wouldn't have been talking about trade and tariff. We would have been talking about the fact that EVs were going to be 30% of our production capacity in 2030. I think we've probably hit the waterline, and I'm an EV driver, but at about 8%. So there's a lot of organizations that have stranded capital because of those investments, and now we're seeing delays in those programs coming, if not cancellations. So access to working capital is a big piece. Early on in the administration, there was a statement in one of the news programs that said reshoring could happen within 6 months in the automotive sector. That should have got a laugh, but tough crowd. So so the other thing that we've done is, as it relates to Section 232, people need time. I think that there's a general sentiment that there are things that need to be reindustrialized within the United States. And I think that you can find nearly anyone that can agree that there are things that need to come back, whether it's for national security or whether it's just to better serve customers. But that's not going to happen in 6 months. So we've asked for a reprieve from Section 232 auto parts to reduce the tariff from the 25% to 10% for a 3-year period, to be able to allow the industry time to react. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that people need time. Plans are in motion. However, as you know, you want to move a line, your customer has to agree. You have to have capital. You need to go through PPAP. Again, 6 months. You may need to get permits. 6 months. So we really think 3 to 5 years is what's needed to be able to bring this back. And that's really what we see the focus of our our member base being, and also maintaining some of the tax incentives. So we had a great win with the R&D tax incentive to stay. We need to see more of that to continue from a manufacturing perspective. And that's really what our members are focused on, and what we're trying to go as one voice as the automotive industry to the administration on.
Thank you. Lisa, any live examples that you can cite about what Megan's discussing in terms of pivots or priorities? You can take that.
Well, to Megan's point, yeah, it's going to take about 3 to 5 years to bring back a heavily capitalized line, and that's a dedicated line. But we need to look at flexible manufacturing, right, where you are doing it in like tool and die can come back, because that's what we need to control, the molds, how we manufacture. We have lost that. And then you have so many people aging out. So when I talk about flexible manufacturing, there's a way that, just modular manufacturing. I'm not talking about anything new. I think, what was it, L&M Motors or something did this a while back in DC. They tried to do the carriage part, but, didn't look like a wagon. But again, it was something that they were trying to do, and it was a great idea, but I think it was just the application of it. And I think to Megan's point, of how many years it's going to take, I think we have to look at it a different way and not look for everything. And we have to actually say the way that manufacturing is going to look today, it looks today and is going to look like in the future, is nothing like what I came through at Ford Motor Company. I mean, we're talking about clean spaces. We're talking about where back in the day, there used to be clay modelers, where you got a full car sitting in front of you and it was all clay. Oh, it was beautiful. But now we don't have that, right? We're actually using software to do that. So we just have to look at manufacturing a different way. It's not the mom and pop. It is not the Chevy of old. So I think that's what we have to pivot to now.
It's great. Pavan, I'm going to come over to you. What about the business side of the house, and how do folks need to think about modernizing that? Small and mid-sized manufacturers, what do they need to reposition in their business models amongst these kinds of disruptions? Corporate strategies, operational changes, talent development, capital investment, strategic partnerships, M&A, like a lot of things that are not production, but are on the business side. How are you thinking about that?
You hit it right on the head. So I'll pick up again where Lisa left off, which is flex capital is a different dynamic. Flex capital means your balance sheet starts looking differently. And then if process moves to design, you have to think in terms of intangible assets, and most manufacturers don't think of intangibles as part of their strategy. So it is fundamentally a change in the way the C-suite looks at the business, right from, it is from hard stuff to digital, and that is a completely, the transition from that to a digital organization has deep implications on capital management. Capital management moves from what I would call NPV, net present value analysis, to more like options analysis. That's how Silicon Valley thinks. It's not about, one bet that has a specific, return on capital that I can then compare with my weighted average capital, cost of capital. It is how many bets can I put in play, and how many of them are going to give me 10x, and then this way I can get my return. It's more about liquidity management as opposed to capital allocation. So that is a fundamental retraining of the finance suite. It's a fundamental retraining of ops, because a lot of manufacturers still see themselves as essentially flowing paper across the organization. Now you're looking at the digital thread is much more it's not necessarily serial, it's multi-directional. The CEO has to start thinking different. So this is probably the biggest challenge. It's a mindset change. The good thing, though, is, we were talking about this earlier, small businesses can move on a dime. They are very innovative. And so I have great confidence in our small manufacturers. Once they see the method, they can easily pivot. We've got this actually a great story, not to take too much time, but we had a participant in Project Diamond where we gave away these 3D printers, and this gentleman, 60 plus years old, legacy manufacturer, didn't really want the 3D printer. He wanted the essential business badge so he could stay open during the pandemic. That's really what he wanted. He put in, after about 10 weeks of the printer being on the shelf, he said, let's find a use for this. They converted a $100 stainless steel part into a composite part for $2. That was enough of a mindset shift. He transformed his business overnight. He found all kinds of applications for the 3D printer. They bought a laser welding machine. He retrained the staff, and from thinking about closing the business, he had a successful exit 2 years later. So it's not like he needed to go back to Harvard or anything like that. It was just that one inspiration. Now, the cool thing is, the sophistication that we see in AI tools today, you can actually have a conversation. You can say, hey, I'm the CEO of a stamping plant, and I need to think about digital transformation. You'd be surprised at what it'll tell you. So, it's not that far away, but it is a mindset shift. That's probably the big thing that needs to happen.
Yeah. I love the plays we're making with the legacy term. Well, I can't wait to report back to Spencer on that. So one of Next Street's very favorite topics, ecosystems. We do a lot of work on ecosystem building across the country and helping communities figure out how to build, support, keep together, and advance ecosystems. But manufacturers really depend on having access to the right ecosystem of support to navigate capital, business, operational assistance, policy guidance, professional networks, workforce development. I'm singing your book here, Megan. Manufacturers rely on a range of partners and resources to plan and implement these changes. Pavan, I'll come back to you again, but what forms of support from government, investors, industry groups, business support partners, what do you see working to help manufacturers adapt? And where are the biggest areas of support that if we strengthen that thing in the support ecosystem could really unlock meaningful progress? I'll go Pavan, then Megan. And then we'll fact check it with Lisa. She'll say
So our experience with manufacturers is manufacturers only trust other manufacturers. Everybody else is just sunshine, right? So, I'm sure that's so we do have a great ecosystem. We have, a wonderful partner network. Automation Alley works with partners around the state. We have, at Automation Alley, we have what's called the Essential Manufacturer Program, which is, subsidized by the MEDC, and everybody gets essentially great knowledge through that program and peer networking. But it's what we find is when manufacturers see a peer group that they can identify with, and the nice thing is, generally within a community, manufacturers don't tend to be competitive because they tend to be in different industries. So we see a lot of like this cohesion, and that tends to be the biggest transformer, if you will, is the ability to bring them together on some kind of a theme that really makes sense for them, whatever it is, that's the burning question of the day. And then the other services around the ecosystem that might be information, access, coaching, what have you, then play into those needs. That's what we've seen as the most successful. So, the Essential Manufacturer Program for our we call it part of the Signature Initiative, has been super successful. We were at, I would say, in the mid-hundreds about when we started, and now we're about almost 4,000 manufacturers. And they see the value in that program because they get the digital support, they get the honest information, but then they have the opportunity to work with each other.
Great. Megan?
I think that, peer groups are very important. So, if anyone's looking for one, come see me. We have a peer group of any flavor you're looking for. But one of the things that we are working on trying to support is workforce development for manufacturers. So how can we help create a pipeline of students and young professionals, emerging professionals, and really make manufacturing sexy again is I think what we want to do, right? And it requires not only us to help educate, upcoming workforce, but also as manufacturers to kind of change some of our mindset. I was with an OEM in South Carolina, and they have a daycare on site or childcare on site. And then one of the things that they do for their second shift workers is they actually bring in dinner and allow their workers to come off the line, remove their children from the childcare facility, and have dinner as a family. So this is something that is a fringe benefit that creates an attraction point and even helps. In that case, they actually had some data to share that this helped them tap into the workforce that had not been participating. So Lisa had shared, obviously we're not seeing unemployment numbers as what we would expect, but there's a big opportunity within the non-participating workforce, but you just have to think differently. So that workforce development is really important. The other thing that we are working on, and I think is just interesting based on the conversation we've had, is how can we help demystify digital transformation, and how do we make it not scary, especially from an AI perspective and generative AI. The last thing you want is for someone to think that their job is just going to be taken over, and that's not what we're seeing in the numbers. That's not what's expected. So we are working on how can we bring like citizen developer tools to vehicle suppliers. So not only on the shop floor, but also in the back office. So, every day, your plant manager's program manager may be pulling the same Excel file from an EDI report, say, putting it into a dashboard in an Excel file, and then sending it in an email. Everything I just said can be automated by someone who has no software development skills needed. Citizen developer can go in using something like a Catalytic, Automation Anywhere, Alteryx, and be able to do that. So that's the other place where we talk about how can we upskill, how can we reskill the workforce to better support manufacturing and really continue to, that makes it sexy, right?
Super sexy, super sexy. So Lisa, as a business owner, lots of people want to help. People come with help. Some of it's helpful, and some of it's a total waste of your time. So what makes it, as a business owner, what makes an ecosystem support helpful? What makes it worth your time and effort?
Well, to Pavan, am I saying that right? Pavan's point, manufacturers only trust manufacturers. That's key. We smell the BS and eyes roll back and we just start humming. So the thing is that when help does come, the one thing I like about the My Hub is because everything is there. There's the bridge, right? So when we tend to mentor each other as manufacturers, and it's great that the company in South Carolina can do that with, their employees, but I can't, right? So what we try to do is look at how are we going to develop the workforce in such a way that we don't lose, it doesn't cost us a lot, or we get people engaged. And we have decided, or most of us have decided, is that we meet the people where they are. Right? And workforce development must look a little different. Like for that particular company, it might look that way. But for us, it's actually being engaged and being on the plant floor, because we're not several layers away from our employees. I'm 1 degree, so everybody's able to see me and I can see them. And then we have this thing called What the Math. And that's where we're teaching everybody on the floor what math is, what it looks like. So when we're saying so many parts per bin, people feel comfortable with it. They feel comfortable with the CNC. We have engineering students who come to us, and they actually love how we teach everything, because we show a piece of metal and say we're going to get it down to a striker. So we take them through that, and in every iteration, they can see the math. Every employee can see the math and what is actually happening. So though I love the programs and whatnot, I think sometimes we miss that little piece that says everybody is a little different, and you got to meet them where they are. So.
Great. So, quick round. We'll start from that end and come back. Just what do we need right now? What's the one thing we should prioritize right now at any level? And then we'll open it up for some Q&A.
She said start with you.
Say that? Oh,
Just kidding.
No, he's lying. He is setting you up.
No,
No,
I can.
no.
See, you weren't paying attention.
I know.
That gave me some time.
Exactly.
I would say, so right from the beginning of our journey at Automation Alley with Industry 4.0, the three things that we found were missing, or I should say really areas of focus for any organization was culture, finance, and technology in that order. So you have to transform your culture. You have to start being flexible, because traditionally manufacturing is not flexible. It's very rigid, and understandably so, because it's a very in traditional manufacturing, a mistake is costly. Your capital expense is high. Your working capital gets messed up. I mean, so. But when you're a digital organization, you have a little bit more leeway. So it's culture, finance, and technology. But we need to figure out how do we transform culture at scale, and that's always been that is, I think, the biggest challenge and that we need to figure out.
Megan.
I think another leg of the stool is that we need some certainty on the trade front. So while I don't think we can deliver that, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if every single time I do something, there's like a tweet or something on Truth Social rather about a new tariff, but we need to protect USMCA, and we need to create some level of certainty within the uncertain in the trade environment, so that especially small and medium-sized manufacturers can navigate with confidence that their bets are going to play out, and even better if they're making more flexible bets.
Great. Lisa. Now it's you. Now it's you.
now it's me. Okay, I can wake up now. I'm going to take a really big approach and say America has to define who it wants to be. Do we want to lead in clean technology? Do we want to own our technology in everything that we do? And do we want to make sure that people can economically sustain themselves? What do we want to be at the end of the day? And I think that's what's key. Because as we're looking at the waking up of the circus of every day, the uncertainty is who do we want to be? And I think if I had to give someone an assignment, if there are legislators here and whatnot, I would like for you to focus on that. What is it that you really want to be? Forget your affiliation and whatnot. Who is America? And really, for us to be successful, we have to lay down policies that support that. So the programs may be there, but guess what? If that's not the way America wants to go as manufacturing, and I'm talking about not just manufacturing hard tech, I'm talking about manufacturing of software, of food, of pharmaceuticals, circular economy. I'm talking about it all that makes America stand up and once again be that leader of innovation to the world. We're not that light right now because we're living in this uncertainty and we're at a constant fight. I mean, it's very difficult to do R&D when you're thinking about survival, or you're thinking about eating, or you're thinking about, okay, what's going to happen next? Am I going to be on the right side of the trade route? So I would like to just get everyone to maybe stop having the dual conversations of what legacy manufacturing versus new manufacturing. Manufacturing is technology, and technology is manufacturing. That's it. Now, policy guys, legislators, whoever we're having a conversation is, what is it that we want to be when we grow up? Because when America builds, we are very successful.
Small order there. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll open it up for a few questions for the panelists. We have some roving mics. Hi, Amy. And so, yeah, gentleman in the back.
manufacturers. Oh, thanks.
Thanks.
So I work in a tech startup where we help manufacturers with vertical AI solutions to get paid faster, qualify for more contracts, and grow cross-border. But a lot of what we see when people talk about innovation or getting more manufacturing jobs back to the States is an issue with payment terms. I mean, you're looking at net 90, net 120, net 180. For Mexican sub-suppliers, we've heard up to net 365. And so, I mean, it's great that we want to go in and help manufacturers digitize, so on and so forth. How are most of these companies supposed to pay for all this innovation? Unless either they're getting some element of government support or payment terms become a little bit more flexible and less, to be honest, predatory. And so I was kind of curious, what are some of your organizations doing to help educate maybe some of these small, medium-sized suppliers about solutions that are on the market, or are there things that you guys are seeing maybe from government, whether that be state government or otherwise, to go and help with some of these issues?
Who wants to grab that?
Well, when you said 365 net,
That's in Mexico,
that's a bad negotiation. Okay, automotive tends to pay on the second day of every month, so that's 62 days. So if somebody's waiting beyond 180 days, that might be something that's coming out of the port of China, and you say, I'm not going to pay that sub-supplier until it hits my dock, right? So that might go into 72 or 80 days, okay, coming by boat.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, where we see a lot of the issues are tier 2. So tier 1 going down to tier 2, where they're putting on net 90, net 120.
Right.
And from the OEM to the tier 1, like you said, 60 days, maybe 70, in some cases, not that bad. But it's really the tier 1 kind of being exploitative towards the tier 2s and sub-tiers.
Yeah, that's a bad negotiator. You should really go in, if you're getting paid on the 62nd day, then you should be getting paid on the 65th day. That's usually how that rolls. We got people in here who work for the OEMs and I'm a tier 1, and we never hang anybody out that long because, how are you supposed to invest in yourself? So the one thing that you lead with in your conversation is, I feed families too, right? And so when you lead with that, you got that person. And so they get that. So you're not going to get into anything beyond the 90 days unless there's just a system failure.
Any other one weigh in on that?
Maybe just to weigh in on what are we doing to help the smaller organizations be able to have access to to digital tools. One of the things that we've been doing, not everyone can afford enterprise licensing for things, right? So we've been bringing in smaller startup or early on organizations that are offering some sort of unique solution that's solving a specific pain point. And making sure then that their pricing, while it's not through MEMA, but making sure that their pricing is something that would actually be attainable by a smaller organization, so that you're not going in there and saying, oh, it's going to be $1.5 million for us to do the investigation to make sure that we can actually work on your system, right? But hey, for a couple $1,000s for the year, we can give you 5 licenses to be able to do this, this, and that. We have solutions like that for commercial intelligence management that cover everything from cost recovery to, tracking your EDI and basically anything Salesforce can do. But that's one of the things that we're trying to do, and we're trying to continue to do that. And I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, but so, encouraging anyone in the room who does have a compelling solution that solves pain points for suppliers, please come see me, because I think that we all need to, this is a time we all need to come together and we all need to collaborate in order for us to all continue to move forward.
And Megan, I just want to add one thing to that. Always remember, hogs are killed, pigs are fed.
Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, right? It's one of my favorites. Excellent. Question, another question? Yes.
Hi.
Yep, you're good.
So question I have is, we're talking about a lot of basically adopting lean processes, and eventually that's what that whole software transformation is. Adopting those, some of the lean where you given the example of spreadsheets and so on. So is this transformation going to continue beyond next 4 or 5 years? Or is that something is not tied up to, most of the transformation not tied up to the current, I would say, atmosphere? And this is going beyond, beyond whatever's going on right now? Is that, I guess,
So,
I
so
don't know.
is this an industry and business?
New norm, I would say.
Yeah,
like,
new
is it-
norm
yeah.
beyond if the volatility settles, if the policies settle, is there a bigger industry and business trend that's happening anyway, or
Right,
that will
because-
outlast that? Is that the
Right,
question?
yeah, that's basically my question is, because,
Yeah.
I can take that and I'll give you a parallel example. So in the software industry, there was a big there was a big furore that came up when Toby Lutke, the CEO of Shopify, sent out a memo to his entire team, and he said, "We are not going to hire any more new people in the organization unless the existing team cannot tell me how they tried to solve any existing this problem that they had with AI." And what he's trying to say is we all need to lean in on what they call reflexive use of AI. So this transformation is permanent. It is, you can look at it both ways. You can look at it like, oh my God, AI is going to come take my job. That's the one approach. But AI also gives us huge opportunities for self-development and self-improvement. So the choice is ours, right? But for an organization and for the general industry, this shift is going to be permanent. I don't see this going back. The current uncertainty, and I think, Andy, you said it, disruption brings opportunity, disruption makes change, is just going to accelerate some of those dynamics. Because when things are going okay, you don't necessarily have the need to make the change. But when there's so much uncertainty, that's when people will be like, you know what, let's just try anything. Let's throw something against the wall. And that's when change happens. So from our perspective, it's permanent. But again, it's that culture change. It's how do you lean into it? Because AI alone isn't going to solve problems. You do need the human, and the human needs to kind of have a different perspective. It's always human plus AI will always beat AI.
Yeah, it's AI won't take your job. The person who knows how to use AI will take your job.
Yes.
AI won't kill your business. The business who knows how to use AI will kill your business. So, any other question? Well, I probably have time for one more. 5 generations in the workforce, easy adoption of technology. Any thoughts there?
One of the things that works actually is what we call kind of like, mentoring both ways.
Yes.
And I think that really works well. I mean, typically we see the seniors mentoring the junior generations, but I see, if we can implement a mechanism for that reverse mentoring, I think it's a great way to kind of solve that, because what the older generations bring in terms of wisdom is irreplaceable. And then the agility of the younger generation, put those two together. I think it's a net positive to have more generations, not a net negative.
Well, we were talking briefly about that, right? So one of the things, to your point, is having the older generation there. And I will speak to this like with CAD, right? CAD designers and whatnot. So most of the guys who are coming out, the engineers who are coming out, really can't see what the part looks like, right? They see the part, but when it's on the screen and they're using technology, they have no idea how it got there. So our thing is to take people back to the board, back to the drafting board, and learning and seeing how did I get there. It's like when you're doing math, right? If you use the calculator and you know 1 + 1 is 2, but you don't know how you got to 2, you don't have the foundation, and you don't have the skill set to go any further. You stop right there. And that's why I often talk about you have to meet people where they are, and you got to get them to understand the foundation. The foundation is not going to go away. The legacy is not going to go away, okay? It's the jump off, right? It's the jump off. I am going to improve. That's all AI is doing. You still have to check AI. I do a lot of playing around with AI, and it always says, its disclaimer says, please check your information before sending it out. So you have to know how the data or the information is put together before you send it out. Otherwise, when you send it out, okay, that car is going to come off lopsided. The door is going to fly off, and the wheels are going to not fit. You're going to have 114, another 22 dub. I'm telling you now, it's just not going to work. I've seen this. So when we talk about, to your point, the 5 generations, I love it because in our shop, that's exactly what we have. We have 5 generations. And it's always the new teaching the old and the old teaching the new. And once you just develop a culture of just accepting what is coming, because we all survived, oh, okay, I'm not this old, but we all survived the wagon going away. You know, we all survived the buggy whip going away. So, you know, it's just a time of, out of chaos comes the opportunity, and it's so much hope out there. It's so much out there to learn right now. And AI is just helping us out. I never knew so much about art until I started looking at AI and saying, okay, I'm going to start appreciating this. I want to go and learn more. But to your point, it's just getting back to the basics, getting the foundation, and just bringing everybody along. They'll come along.
Please join me in thanking our panelists. Fantastic way to kick us off.